This is Infection, the survival podcast, recorded live on Tuesday, the 1st of June, 2021, episode 333. That's 333. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and gals. Welcome to another episode of Infection, the survival podcast. Infection is your source for the latest information on survival video games. We do this shebang each and every week. My name is Nick Craig. You can follow me on social media, various social media platforms like Gab at Nick. If you want to check out my weekly or daily political rantings, you can do so at nickcraig.com with my morning program, Wilmington's Morning News. You can find that at nickcraig.com. Our website, where you can get all the great information about this program, is infectionpodcast.com. Joining me on the program, as he does each and every week, for a 333rd episode, which is a very high number, Brian, is
I know
Brian.
it's a third of 1,000. I mean, we're almost there in no time.
I will come out.
It's one short of a third of 1,000.
I will make a bold prediction right here, Brian, that we will likely not make it to 1,000 shows. I mean, I know that might be controversial. I just have a feeling
we'll start receiving emails.
12 years from now, I will be almost 40. I just have a strong suspicion.
You'll be right. You'll be coming up on my age.
I just have a strong suspicion that we're not. Again, I don't want to say it. I'm not trying to be a Debbie Downer.
Green Man's appalled. He can't believe he just decided now is the time to announce this in front of everybody.
Yeah, well, I mean, I know I didn't talk to Brian about this before.
We will not be making it to episode 1,000
because
we didn't. Well, did we set up our digits right? Can we do over 1,000 without breaking like our numbering system or something?
Yeah, I'm sure WordPress won't care. Again, I don't want to be the Debbie Downer. I'm just saying, in all likelihood, we will not make it that far. All right. We only have an hour, so let's get into this thing. All right. Brian, hello. How are you? Where can people find you online?
I'm doing well. Yeah, if you want to find me at Brian Aldridge on Gab or Parler, or if you want to go check out my blog, biteoftech.com, or of course, someday, aldridge.house. I'm sure that'll be the new happening website here. But if you go to our website, as Nick said, infectionpodcast.com, check out the right-hand side. It says, join our server on Discord. And if you do that, there's a bunch of channels where you can submit, first of all, news topics. There's a workout channel. There's just, we have ARC servers, and so there's channels for those. But there's a lot of things that you can do. So if you want to hang out, give us feedback, anything like that, jump into our Discord. If you want to get a notification before the live show starts, just click join that Steam group. And then if you have Steam open, everything's loaded and they're working that day, you should get a notification. And then we have all the video forms of the podcast. So if you want to watch this, maybe you're hearing this right now through a podcast app and you want to figure out how to watch it, you can go to Twitch, YouTube, BitChute, and DLive. And then we have our pre and post shows that Judd has put some of those on a channel for us. And that's podcast extras. And then we have all our audio only forms at the lower hand right. So if you have a mobile app, web-based app, anything, you can use those. And then follow along on the show, particular show notes for that episode. So there'll be an episode 333, and there'll be a video player in there, an audio player, and then links for all the things that we reference throughout the episode. So if you want to follow along, even if you're just listening, but you want to see the videos, you're more than welcome to do that. And that's all there on the website. If you want to support us, go to the support tab up top or infectionpodcast.com/support. And there's a number of different ways that you can do that. So
absolutely.
That's Hope you had
a good Memorial Day, everybody. Of course, an important holiday in the United States, remembering the men and women that sacrificed it all so that Brian and I can sit here and talk about video games for a few hours. Brian, I do have a personal gripe I want to get out of the way before we get started.
Yes.
We received a comment on a YouTube video a couple of weeks ago. Well, on a video that was posted a couple of weeks ago. It's from somebody who I've never heard of before. I've watched you on and off since your very first episode. I'm happy to say that this is a shot at me. I'm happy to say that after seeing you described as a fresh conservative talk personality, I'll never be watching again. This is in reference to my website. That's what it says on the website. I really, first of all, fuck this guy, first of all. And second of all, we have done nothing but keep this show in such a political heightened climate out of the political weeds. We have bitten our tongues for years to keep this show, for the most part, based on what it was originally doing. What we didn't do
Kinda
was
on
change our
topic,
logo
yeah.
to the LGBTQIAP plus flag like every other stupid freaking company for the month of June for Pride Month, because it's irrelevant for this program. We don't do anything in the social justice realm. We're a video game talk show. So there's no reason to talk about stupid bullshit like that. Like Bethesda's over here changing their logo on their US side to the LGBTQ flag, but the Bethesda Middle East Twitter account, of course, Brian doesn't change that. Definitely not. So it just really pissed me off that somebody would write that. And the fact that you can't get over that as a viewer means, first of all, you're a douchebag. And second of all, we've done nothing but keep this show, for the most part, on track while everybody else has played politics for the last 5 years. So to Mr. Mars Bar on YouTube, who I'm sure has not actually watched On and Off since day one, the fact that you didn't know that I was a conservative prior to this means you obviously don't listen to the show, you stupid jackass.
Well, but I want to point out one thing really quickly. If it took him up to this point of finally going to your website and noticing that, then he is then making the statement that he's not going to be doing that because we let it get into our topics too much.
We don't.
I mean, he's claiming he didn't even know till he went to your website.
Yeah.
So whatever.
Yeah. So sayonara. But I do want to point out the fact that we could have taken this show and done complete wokeism, anti-wokeism stuff for the last 2 years. But frankly, I don't think people want to listen to that garbage. So we don't. So yeah, ta-ta. If you can't deal with my personal political beliefs, then piss off. By the way, I want to thank our friend UGX Vibe for hitting us up with the Snowflakes Are Real MAGA 40-month tier 1 subscription here on Twitch. Not my words, his words. I didn't say that. Thank you very much, UGX Vibe. Appreciate your support here on the program, and I'll make my way up to Raleigh next weekend, and I've got to drop off some 3D printed parts for our friend UGX Vibe, so that'll be a good time. All right.
Oh, and I was in a dice shop I was in actually a game shop this weekend. I was looking at some of their dice towers, and I was like, I need to have Nick 3D print me a dice tower.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
because I was looking at these, and all they were just 3D printed things.
I don't know if you'd want me to 3D print it because shipping
I'm saying
would probably cost
but
more.
Getting one 3D printed.
Yes. So he's having me print off a base for. He's got Starlink, the Elon Musk internet. So he's having me print off a base for the modem, and then I think something else which I need to start printing, some firearm accessories, I believe. So yeah, cool stuff over there. Thanks for your support, Bob. Appreciate it. Best bacon maker in the entire Infection Podcast community. I can confirm. All right. Well, Brian, here's the thing. If you are going to go to court, Brian, let's say somebody decides to sue you, maybe because they don't like what you do. The great advice is to always, and I'll speak not as a legal expert, but as somebody that has some semblance of common sense, always hire an attorney to represent you. The owner of...
But Nick, don't you realize that I could be saving some money that I would be paying towards legal fees? That'll save me money.
Well, according to the owner or the proprietor of the website ROM Universe that was sued by Nintendo, decided that he was going to represent himself in court. In his opening statements, he contradicted what he wrote in his deposition. So right away, his legal argument was thrown out. The judge excoriated him, and he lost the lawsuit and now owes Nintendo $2.15 million for the transmission and the publishing of ROMs on their website. So thank God he saved $10,000 or $15,000 hiring an attorney. He now, with that, is now going to have to pony up just north of $2 million to the great company of Nintendo. So we'll say, we'll give him a golf clap and say good luck, and hopefully everybody else can learn. Judges hate nothing more than somebody especially a guy that owns a ROM site who is not an attorney. Even attorneys don't represent themselves in court because it's very looked down upon. It's very disrespectful and looked down upon. An attorney, let's say an attorney gets a DUI or DWI or something, they will hire another attorney to represent them because that's just what you do. This jackass that runs a website selling ROMs thought he was going to represent himself in a court of law against Nintendo, one of the biggest video game companies in the world, and managed to put his foot in his mouth multiple times. And the judge, the district court judge, just obliterated him. If you want to go and read the entire judgment, it's quite comical to just look at how the judge just ridiculed this guy as he just made contradicting statement after contradicting statement. So, Brian, tip of the week, we'll bring back the segment. Hire an attorney. If you're outside of small claims court, hire an attorney so you don't have to pay Nintendo $2.15 million.
Well, yeah, and that came down to, what they're saying, first of all, originally they said they lost $15 million in lost sales. I don't know about that.
That's not true.
Yeah, it's a Nintendo old ROM site. But then they were said that's about $90,000 for each of the 49 games found on the site. So pretty much they're valuing it $90,000 per game.
Yeah, and they didn't get anywhere near that $15 million. They got just shy of $2 million, which honestly, this guy's never going to be able to repay. Likely, I can't imagine he's punching down $500,000 a year and will slowly be able to pay this back. And
this is I don't show that there's any kind of a big income, that he was making from this site.
No, it's a free site from what I can determine.
Yeah, so it's like he just has nothing going for him at the moment.
Yes, and now he has even less. So salute to my to our friends at whatever this website was called, Torrent ROM Universe.
Freak?
No, it was ROM Universe. So rest in peace, my friend.
All right, and then we kind of talk about with the Epic giveaways and money they're losing and everything. Now, Among Us, they were one that was only, if I remember correctly, on console, or maybe it was only on like a single console. They released it to PC, but they did it on, and then they did a giveaway on the Epic store. And now they showed some numbers, and I figured this would kind of get you going a little bit, because we always wonder, what from the Epic sales, like what's the actual feedback? Mm-hmm. And they gave us their consistent, what they had is a pre-sale or pre-giveaway daily player count went from 350,000. So that right there, what you're showing right there, is the normal player count. That's the average. So it's right at about 300 to 350,000. And then there's another image there right below it. There should be the after they started giving the game away, and they reached the 2 million mark.
Yes.
So
there's that one.
You see, so that you could see it went from the average right up to 2 million, and it stayed consistent there for at least a day. So this will be interesting to see if that game on that platform makes sense to me, because if you look at Fortnite, the age group, a lot of younger people really like the Among Us game. I think that you'll get a lot of crossover of people that will already have Fortnite installed, already have the launcher if they're on a PC, and then this is a game that they'll grab and actually play when they're not playing Fortnite. So just thought I would mention that, a little bit of actual feedback on numbers.
So PH is bringing up a point. It's $3 on Steam. I'm not accusing anybody of tomfoolery here, Brian, but this just seems very odd to me. You're telling me that there was in the ballpark of 1.5 million people, 1.75 million people that didn't have this game, that decided to not just get it free on Epic, but then are actively playing it? To me, that just, when I saw this story in the show notes, when I was looking over stuff while I was eating dinner, I couldn't seem to wrap my head around this. It just doesn't seem right. This game was very popular months and months ago during the pandemic. It was the hottest thing. But who are these 1.5 million people that don't already own it? The game's been on sale time and time again. We've seen from the numbers from the Epic lawsuit versus Apple, we saw the player counts and some of the information that came out of depositions. This just doesn't seem accurate. I mean, I'm not sure. I'm sure they're not lying. I just wonder if there's more to the story than this, because it just seems like an egregious jump in player base. You're talking about tripling your player base.
Yeah, I mean, one thing, It's interesting because I'm looking at it over on Steam, and that released on Steam years ago. I mean, that came out in 2018.
Yeah, game's been out for a while.
Right?
It just really peaked over the summer. So it's like people found
Yeah, it
out
started
about
getting
it
really
again.
popular.
Yeah.
And now, I don't know. I think a lot of it would be that there is a high number of kids that really enjoy this game, and they're the most likely ones to have the Epic launcher because they're going to be playing it if they have a PC, playing it on the PC. I think for this game especially, it would have a high crossover because a lot of the games they give away are, not for the 13-year-old, 11 to 13-year-old age range. They're for other age ranges. This one, I think, other ages can play this, but it's really popular in that age range.
Yeah. That's interesting.
So
Nevertheless,
I personally, I think that's why.
Yeah, it's interesting. Nevertheless, is it still free? I believe it's free for a couple more weeks, right? Maybe till the end of the month, something like that.
Yeah. Well, I'll get the exact range, but let me make sure that it's because they're going to be moving on to another one. And that's the thing, is you want to make sure on some of these, I think the sale only goes for the giveaway only goes for like 3 days, 4 days, sometimes a week, depending on how many they're doing. So I'll find out. But if you haven't, I did grab it the second I saw it because I wanted to have a copy in case we as a group go and play. I don't own this. I have this on mobile, but I don't have it on console or anything else.
I own it on Steam. I've honestly never played it, but yeah. So interesting numbers. I wouldn't have expected that from the Epic Game Store but it is cool to see the numbers. So no questions about it. Yeah, obviously something going on with Among Us on Steam, and obviously Epic sees the value in continuing to give games away. Presumably it is building their player base.
Yeah, so June 3rd. So it's going to be going till Thursday. So you have until Thursday to grab it 9 a.m. That's probably Pacific or something like that. But I would just, if you want a copy of Among Us, you don't have it on PC, just grab it on there.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. Let's talk about Bethesda for a second, Brian. Yes. This came out. This was an announcement last week, and we didn't get to it. I don't want to spend a bunch of time on it, but I do find it interesting. They are shutting down their forums, and moving to Discord, which seems to me to make a lot of sense. Forums are, and I've said this for a while. Me being in my age range, forums were never really the hot thing. For your age, it's a little bit different. Forums were like the first bastion of the internet, but when I was growing up and using the internet, they were already kind of on the downswing. So I've never been able to really get into forums. The format for me just doesn't make a lot of sense. And for a lot of these things, it doesn't make sense either. And so they are officially shutting down their official forums and moving to Discord. What they are keeping open is the Elder Scrolls Online forum. That's the only one they're keeping online. But the rest of their communities, they're going to be moving to Discord, Twitter, and Reddit. Kind of a combined effort between all of those platforms. And I think you'll continue to see this. This is a very common thing that all these game sites have forums. Yeah. And realistically, it just doesn't make sense anymore. Everybody's got a Discord account. Everybody's got social media. It's just a lot of stuff to maintain and manage. And realistically, how big of a user base do you have on an individual game forum? It can't be that high. And I'm sure that's why Microsoft. Well,
the problem is then you get a lot of like leftover content and everything. Forums, unlike these kind of chat rooms, the Discord are, you have just structured, just old thread. Yeah. Well, chat room, it's all time based, so you don't have a bunch of leftover. It just makes a lot more sense for troubleshooting and dealing with real time issues, or, within the last month of issues. You can still do searches. You can still do all those things. But I think they're finding that just you make a frequently asked questions or a help page or something where people have troubleshooting things based on the things that you learn in your support chat room. You can come up with the different procedures and then start to that link instead of helping them in there. It's a lot. I think it makes more sense for today's type of support, where kind of the standard for all these companies were set, in the late 90s, early 2000s. They're like, oh, forums is the way to go. It's not that anymore.
And Discord has added a lot of features to their site now with the
catering
closed
to these
rooms
things
and the announcements channel, and have made it so it can
even
work.
Communities.
Yeah, they've done a really good job at adding that stuff to it to cater and make it kind of the one-stop shop for for gamers. I mean, really, that's what they've done. At one point with their store, they were your marketplace, your text chat, your voice chat, and about everything else. So they're continuing the trek with that. I found that to be rather interesting. I want to thank our friend Valp1, heyo, hitting us up with the 21-month resubscription here on Twitch. Valp, thank you very much, sir. Greatly appreciated, and great to have you alongside here on another program. So that's what Bethesda is doing, shutting down their Bethesda.net forms.
And another thing on the Bethesda news is they're going to be doing a joint summer conference. So Microsoft, that Microsoft owns Bethesda now, they'll be doing a joint conference. And so, first of all, people are really looking forward to maybe seeing something about Starfield, because this has been that project that's in the background that you see a screenshot or you see an image, here and there, but there's really very little information about it. And it's supposed to be a pretty amazing. Well, I mean, they're putting a lot of time and money into it, and it is a AAA studio. So it'll be interesting to see what that is, if they finally announce that, or if they're just going to be announcing some of the expected games, or if there's going to be anything totally new that we haven't even heard of yet. So looking forward to that. But I want to make sure people knew, and that's June 10th. So
cool. Well, that'll let's see, what day will that be? So that'll be 2 shows from now. So our show on the 15th we'll have the details on that. Well, here's something you were pretty excited about, Brian. Unreal Engine 5. I will give you the floor, sir, and you can tell me what you want me to click and what you want me to do for
okay, cool.
For Unreal Engine 5 and some of their big announcements this past week.
Yeah, they've been doing some announcements. First of all, they released an alpha or a demo version of the Unreal Engine 5 editor. So you can actually go in, and I downloaded it. You can get that whole scene that they demoed in those videos. You can download that. It's like 100 gigabytes for the whole scene, for all of it. But it's one that you can run around and you can play in it. And there's some things here that we're going to be showing off. First of all, let's just start with something that actually doesn't have any sound. It's just the movement system. So you remember I talked about a hire that they had made of the person who made a template for the movement system in the Unreal Marketplace. And they hired him on. And this is actually a video that he posted to his personal YouTube. And this is that movement system that they put together for that. So he was just kind of running it around and showing off. But that is pretty much that movement system. So you can see that they hired him to make this movement system right here. There has been a hint that it's going to be built in or as some sort of a module or plugin or something for Unreal Engine in the Unreal Engine 5. So you can just have a thing that you do, and then there's a movement system for you. So that was kind of a cool thing to learn from that. And that's demoed, but not really mentioned. Let's go ahead and go through some of these videos here really quick, because they start demoing off some of the technology that's pretty cool. And on this, some of these things like the nanite are terms that are technology that they've set up and put into this that you can actually see in that demo. And some of the things like Lumen is the lighting system. And it does things like ray tracing, similar to what ray tracing does. But I think you don't need a ray tracing card or any of that, but it still looks like that. So let's go and play, first of all, the behind the scenes of Lumen in the land of nanite. And they're going to show off really quickly one of those scenes and describe it.
Oh, hold on a second. I'm sorry. I have the wrong Lumen video.
No worries.
Here we go.
You always want this freedom for artists, right? There was always constraints, and this feels like an order of magnitude leap as far as freedom to create goes.
With Unreal Engine 5, the most important thing is you want to be able to play what you create right away.
We wanted to do more of a gameplay-oriented experience that would be able to function on the next-gen consoles that were coming about.
What could we do beyond what we thought we could achieve, that we had no choice but to invent new ideas?
So what we wanted to do with that demo is to push Unreal Engine to this limit and see what it's capable of doing.
Our artists spend a ton of time making these beautiful, high-quality, sculpted models. And what ends up in the game is a baked-down, watered-down version of their artistic vision.
Well, the nanite technology is the realization of the graphics industry's goal, which is we want artists to be able to author multi-billion polygon meshes, and for an engine like Unreal to be able to ingest that, and for performance to become the engine's problem and not the artist's problem.
In the cave, we're using Quixel high-res Megascan assets. So when you look down in the cave, down to pebble scale, you can see the detail.
Now you don't have to worry about generating normal maps or low-resolution proxies. You can load in full movie quality assets straight into the engine and be able to use them in your game.
The fidelity level that we've seen in films before, but then running at an interactive frame rate is really just kind of startling at times.
Lumen is an amazing feature because it really unleashes the power of bounce light, and bounce light to photography and cinematography is the holy grail.
And it's not a baking process, it's completely live. So you can move geometry, move characters, open a wall, open a window, and you get live results in front of you that look just like they would do to a camera.
My favorite part of the demo by far is when you're in the temple, it's dark and eerie, and all of a sudden the ceiling opens up, and it just completely changes the way you feel about the scene.
This demo really does represent a coming of age of Niagara as a visual effects tool. It's programmable, so users are no longer constrained by a fixed function simulation. They can write their own behaviors to create visual effects that people have never seen before. For example, bats and ambient bugs skittering through the environment. These are actually very complex Niagara simulations. All of these interesting features, and we're going to give them to the community and just see what comes out.
This has to be the right way.
The way contextual animation works in these environments is we want the character to interact and be a part of this environment. So we are starting off with photogrammetry assets. And in the past, animation systems can count on things like grid systems and flat surfaces, and we had this very organic environment to work with. And our big goal was to have the character interact organically with these assets. And so we had to do a lot of animation, manipulation, and warping to get that to work. The animation aligns with the world, it's believable, and it didn't require the animator to make a lot of content to make that happen.
What excites me the most about Next Gen is to be able to have access to the latest technology and work with the greatest tools to create the most compelling experience.
We want to try to create technology that just works, that really frees developers from having to worry about the technical constraints of making their games and focus on making great art, on making games that are fun.
No longer are you having to wait hours and hours for a frame to be generated that looks pleasing and believable. It actually can happen in front of your eyes.
I feel like the combination of Unreal Engine and next generation hardware has the potential to give us things we've never seen before.
It's time to see what's next.
You can start your games now, and when UE5 is ready to go, you can transfer over and get all these new capabilities.
The most exciting part of this next generation is the ability to achieve complete photorealism in all of the pixels in the scene, and to put that capability within reach of every artist.
One of the key things to take away, I think, from this, Brian, is that this is really great for indie developers and kind of small groups where we've seen games that kind of struggle because you've got a small team and it takes so long to do some of these complex tasks. This seems to help some of that, and it's free.
Well, and here's one thing is, take a look at one project that we've been saying. What's the one where it's the open worlds? It's currently single player. And the initials are JOE, Jaws of Extinction.
Oh,
right?
Jaws of Extinction.
Isn't that the one?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is.
Where it's got a very full world. Right now, it's single player. And I said,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how in the world they're going to optimize that game, just because there's so much stuff. That for them, that optimization is a very, very time-taking task just to go through and do all that. And this takes care of all of that. Now you can put in, you saw the level. I actually did play with the editor a little bit, and you can drag in, they have a thing where you can connect directly to all those graphics and the real world graphics and Quixel items, you can go and drag those items in and just set them right in the world. So you have a whole catalog that you can do. You can just drag big rocks in and huge, super high detailed. The file size is going to be gigantic, but it's going to play just like the games that we see now with ultra realism. And I think a lot of what brought this into happening was the movie industry, because they've been working a lot with the movie industry in Hollywood, and we're making these scenes that had to be that realistic because Disney's putting out their things in 4K, or who knows, they're probably recording them or doing them in 8K for all that matters. And then they turn around, trying to make these scenes, so now they're making it to where games can do the exact same thing, and they figured out a way to get performance, probably so they can do in real time scenes for filmmaking. So they can have it to where the actors in the green screen and they can see it unfolding in real time.
I mentioned this probably 2 years ago when I attended the National Association of Broadcasters show out in Las Vegas. I think I even sent you a message while I was out there that I was blown away with the amount of booths that had the Unreal Engine logo that were doing those real-time graphics for television. And they were using the Unreal Engine. We played a clip probably at this point 3 years ago. The Weather Channel used it for they were doing a thing where like the studio they were showing like, well, what is the impact of a hurricane? And they showed
one of the
water
last hurricane
rising
seasons, or two times ago. Yeah.
And they show the rising water, or things falling over during a tornado, and all of that. They were standing in a room, and the Unreal Engine was generating the on top of them graphics, and it looked incredibly lifelike. It was very cool. It's crazy to see. And again, we look at Epic and we think Fortnite in the Epic Game Store, and that is, yes, that's big, but Unreal Engine is used everywhere. I mean, it's used in so many different kinds of things. Like, for example,
so like the Mandalorian and a lot of the newest Star Wars films, those were done in Unreal Engine.
Well, and you look at like
a lot of those scenes.
Look at like a program like Adobe After Effects that used to be very popular and still is, but a lot of people now are building intros and different assets. Instead of doing them in a system like Adobe After Effects, they're building them in the Unreal Engine and then rendering them in real time. And it allows them to do a lot more. It's a lot easier for people to jump into, and it's kind of taken away some of that need for some of those more complex video tools, because Unreal Engine you can build a game in it, or build like, for example, our intro. That wasn't made in After Effects. That was made in Unreal Engine. It was generated in Unreal Engine and rendered and sent to us, which is really cool. It's cool that it can do that, and it's free. That's kind of the key takeaway with that. It's completely free. So cool stuff.
So let's go ahead. So here's another one that's going to be talking about Lumen, because Lumen's one of the biggest. So Niagara is one of the big things, and then Lumen is another one of the things. So Lumen's the whole lighting system. Can you start this one at 25? Pretty much these next couple of videos at 25 seconds, because a quarter of them is the intro. So let's go. This is talking about doing fully dynamic global illumination using Lumen, and so they're going to demo that in their nanite world.
So Lumen is our new global illumination technology. It allows lighting to bounce all the way around a scene. So you get very realistic interactions, and it's not a baking process. It's completely live. So you can move geometry, open a wall, open a window, and you get live results in front of you that look just like they would do to a camera.
It really unleashes the power of bounce light, and bounce light to photography and cinematography is the holy grail. So when we turn on Lumen and we can have bounce light with no baked lighting at all, with real-time response to lights moving, it frees us up to get in there and really look at how the shot's composed, how the lighting's helping tell the story, so we can spend more time moving things around and not worrying about locking to a certain setup and then pretending that we have the light there.
The type of games that would have previously been considered, or game designs that had been modified because, you have to make the compromise between either having a dynamic world that doesn't look very good, or to have a static world that is lit really nice. You can now have a dynamic world that just changes, reacts to the player, all of it looking just as nice. Artists have been waiting for dynamic GI and begging for it for a long time. I think they are going to be ecstatic to finally get what they've been asking for so long, and to get it in a way that isn't nearly as compromised as what anyone might have seen before.
And he kind of said something that kind of caught my ear, is saying that, you know, if we're thinking of a open world game, we just assume low end graphics, you know, because they tend to end up, and we even saw with Scum. I remember mentioning a Scum when they first released it, the graphics were better, and then over time they kept on, you know, scaling it back. I think this right here, what the biggest thing I think people start noticing, what's released and actively being used, is just the huge difference that we'll notice in big open world games, where normally they'll scaling all these settings down because they're trying to get a certain level of performance. I think we're going to start seeing where the online open world games look like the single player kind of ones that on consoles would be along a track that Nick and I talk about being on a track. You know, those ones look good, but there's so many limitations to what you can actually do. I think now we're going to finally break past that barrier to where you have those looks, but you have the feel in the open world environment. And I think maybe that's where the Arc 2 trailer, remember we saw that Arc 2 trailer and we're like, like that looks really too ultra realistic compared to the old Arc. And I think what they were doing was demoing it probably in the new Unreal Engine, so that you had these super high resolution images that you could have for all the renders, and not have to scale anything down or do anything, and you could still claim it's in engine. So
yes, sir.
All right, so this next one is going to be talking about Niagara, which is their visual effects. So Lumen is the one where it's the lighting and all that. This is going to be like you saw those little cockroaches and things on the ground and how those move, or maybe things disintegrating. That's going to be Niagara. So let's go ahead and do that one again at 25 seconds.
Niagara is our next generation visual effects tool. We use it to create all of the kind of visual effects that you would expect to see in a real-time environment, and it's programmable. So users are no longer constrained by a fixed function simulation. They can write their own behaviors to create visual effects that people have never seen before.
This has to be the right way.
Oftentimes when people think about real-time visual effects, they actually think about compromises. So often we look to things like high-end computer graphics or film, and we see these techniques that always felt out of reach. It always felt like something that would have taken 20 hours of frame to simulate. The vision for Niagara is that we take a much more aggressive leap towards those types of simulations, except that we're being able to simulate them in real-time performant frame rate. There are other ways that Niagara is used in this demo that are a little bit more unexpected and a little bit more revolutionary. For example, creatures, bats, and ambient bugs skittering through the environment. These are actually very complex Niagara simulations that are built on the back of countless interesting technological innovations. Things like particles directly communicating with each other and understanding their space in the world, solvers and simulators that are actually averaging their positions and creating flocking behaviors, response to stimulus. These are all actually behaviors that come about through the Niagara visual effects tool, and this is kind of revolutionary for effects. One of the effects that I really love in this demo is the portal that she walks through at the end. And I love it because of the technology that's playing behind the scenes. We actually have this really complicated fluid solver that is driving this cohesive fluidic motion of the particles as they swirl around this portal. They're reactive to the characters, they're colliding with her, and they're reacting to the other particles, they're splashing around. This type of simulation would never have been possible before.
All right.
So a lot of places you'll see this because they showed it with the cockroaches and all that. That's a good example of it. But also birds, fish swimming, type of behavior of fish, because a lot of these things are just they consume resources as they happen. I mean, if you want to have a bunch of fish kind of going even in a pond, it's going to consume resources. So if you can do them with this type of a nanite, it's very low resources. So you can have a ton of fish in the scene without it lagging you out. So that's one really big step. And then there's one more, and this is going to be talking a little bit more about nanite and discussing, this is talking about their virtualized micro polygon geometry that they did. So,
all right, let's take a look.
So what does nanite mean for artists? It means freedom. It means freedom of choice in terms of the assets that you can use. Now you don't have to worry about generating normal maps or low resolution proxies. You can load in full movie quality assets straight into the engine and be able to use them in your game.
So one thing that Nanite opened up to us was the ability to bring in really high quality assets from asset libraries. Like in this case, we used a lot of Quixel assets.
The Quixel Megascans is the world's largest scan library, and it consists of scans from all over the planet. And being able to use them in all their high poly and high res glory in real time was absolutely fantastic.
See that guy's keyboard?
We did not have to customize any of those.
Microsoft
if you kind of look behind
PS2
the scenes,
keyboard.
some of the content we have, it's super kit bashed. There's a ton of assets just kind of all slammed together.
So you can see there how they're just dragging in the scene.
And it's great.
Yeah.
Some of these assets we're talking tens of millions of triangles for an individual asset. We're talking about entire scenes made up of billions and billions of triangles. The artist brought in the assets and were able to compose the scene the way it made the most sense for them to do it. They were able to just make the art in whatever way made the most sense to them, import it, and then let the engine handle the details.
What are you guarding?
Previously, artists would start from a really high resolution source asset and bake it down to a low poly model and generate a normal map out of this. So artists don't have to do this step anymore. It's just automatically done by Nanite.
And so what nanite technology unlocks is to really liberate the artists so that they can deliver on their vision.
Nanite is like magic to me. Being able to bring these highly detailed models into Unreal without compromise is just game-changing.
And I think now we're going to be seeing more for frame rates. It's going to be less of like, okay, we know how we're going to hit this frame rate constraint. I think now it's going to be size constraints. That's what they're moving into. Is they're going to make it. I mean, that demo alone was 100 gigabytes, which it's a huge world. There's a lot going on, and they didn't try to limit anything. But they're going to be pretty much, I think, setting a size constraint and then limiting their resources, the models and everything down to whatever size fits into that constraint that they have. So, because that's the only thing I can think of that they're going to run into, because you could load, as you can see in those scenes, they're loading whatever they want into them. Those rocks are tons and tons of triangles, if you want to count.
Millions.
They showed the triangle map. Yeah, it's just I just thought that was interesting that they we'll see. I'm really excited to see the first set of games that come out with this, to see once it's in the hands of artists, some of these AAA studios, and they don't have their hands tied with what usually you have to do to make a giant scene that's super detailed, what they actually come up with. And if they can do it to where it's not going to be a giant quarter terabyte download.
Yes, which is of course always the question and the concern. Yes, absolutely. All right.
I think that's pretty much it for UF5.
All right, that's going to round out the Epic and Unreal Engine talk. Got about just about 20 minutes or so left, Brian. Let's talk about Netflix for a minute.
Okay.
Apparently, they're looking at getting into the kind of putting their foot further into the video game realm, which kind of makes sense. They're working on trying to do something that they're calling interactive entertainment, which of course, for all intents and purposes could be a video game.
Well, did you ever see the Bandersnatch that they did?
I did not.
So Bandersnatch, it was part of the Black Mirror series. So Black Mirror is a TV series that has kind of, out there sci-fi type of stories. And they did one called Bandersnatch, which was an interactive. You remember those old choose your own adventure type books?
Of course. Yeah.
It was that. So you'd get to a point where you had to make a decision. You'd make a decision, and then it'd go that way with the story. And so by the end, you'd have some, whatever story ending you ended up on, and they did it with this, and it was kind of a pain to do. I'd want to have one that was much more like, if they could come up with one that actually felt like it was pulling you in a story and you really were actually making a difference in what happened, because this one was just really small decisions that you made. So that's it'll be interesting to see if they do this but take it to the next level, or making regular shows, because they talk about You versus Wild did a collaboration of something like this as well.
Yeah. So something interesting to keep an eye out for. I don't really have any details on it, but the idea is that they've confirmed that they're looking at doing some more of that interactive stuff. And of course, video gaming is the first thing that comes to mind.
Yeah. And that'll also be, I also, talking about Witcher and all that, they've had really good success with working with games. That was one of their top. So I think even if part of what they're doing is just finding games that would be good to maybe have a show series about, ones that have a lot of good lore, that have a good following, or even going the other way, and it doesn't always work, but making games out of series and, coming up with some new games based on a series that have come up with their own lore. So that's Netflix, and we'll see. I just saw a whole list of articles popping up because there's been a hint of them doing that. And so we'll see if once they start actually releasing those, if it is kind of like the Bandersnatch, or if they're coming up with something that feels more of an actual game.
Absolutely. Let's talk about Cyberpunk real quick. Got a quick story here from them. Cyberpunk 2077 has a new game director. The gentleman that is taking over that position is Gabriel Amatelanglo. I definitely butchered his name, but he's been with CD Projekt Red since January of last year as a creative director, and he has now taken over for the previous studio head, Adam Badwaski. So they've got a new game director. Still waiting for the big multiplayer aspect and functionality of Cyberpunk. I assume that that's going to breathe light back into it. That's my thought. I'm sure this gentleman will have a pretty big part in that, as now he's in charge. Default Savior in chat says, poor dude. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say poor dude, but a lot riding on dude. In the success of the multiplayer version of arguably the most hyped game for 2+ years. And it's for the most part, I think it's fallen kind of flat for a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, I've held off. I mean, I beat one ending of it, and I've just figured I'll wait for them to put in fixes, and then maybe do another run through on a different, character, and kind of go a different direction with it and see what they've done. But I don't want to really keep playing it until they've actually put in some improvements. They're talking about new DLCs that they're going to be putting out later this year and the beginning of next year. So I think once they get to that point, try it again, see if it's better, and is it better on the next generation console? Because I would assume, we talked about they're struggling with the old generation consoles, but the current generations that they just released, that's what they made these for. I'd rather play it on one of those this time and see if it's a better experience with RTX and everything else. Just try to have a good series with it. So, all right. Do you have a preference on? I just have a couple things I wanted to mention really quick.
Absolutely. Let's do it. We got plenty of time.
All right. So we've got on here with New World, they did put out some clarification. We talked about how people are really upset with the possibility of them selling things that would get you farther along in the game. They put out an official article here this past week talking about their in-game store. Okay. And they said their plan here is that they will not be putting anything that's not cosmetic until 2022 at the earliest, so next year. So if it's not cosmetic, they won't be on the store. Only cosmetic things up until 2022, maybe past that. And I'm assuming what they're probably holding out for is, do they sell? Are they actually making money off of them? If they're not making money off of purely cosmetics, I'm sure then they'll switch. But if they're getting a lot of sales with that, then maybe they'll stick with that. But that seems to be their current indication, is they are not selling things to help you level faster or to give you certain resources for crafting. It's only cosmetic at the moment.
All right. Well, I think that hope for at least a period of time should kind of calm everybody out, and you can, step back off the ledge. You don't need to jump quite yet. You might want to jump in 2022, but you should be good for at least the first little bit with those. And again, here's the thing. If I had to guess, I would assume that they don't want to ruin their game with making it a pay to win. I would guess that putting all this time into the game, they really don't want people not playing it. They just want people buying their way through it. I don't think game developers actually want that, but I could be wrong.
Well, we'll see. And then another thing I wanted to mention. So we're talking about what people are talking about RTX right now in the chat. Nvidia put out a notice here saying that there are now over 130 games and applications that actually support RTX, and that's that ray tracing technology. There's a little video there, and they actually show some before and afters. So if we could play that, and then people will be able to see. They show what the video looks like, and then the frame rates that they're getting with that video. You can probably turn down the music. It's just music. So you'll be able to see here, they're going to show off on the left, about 60 something frames per second. Almost doubles it on the right. So when you have 40 something, you're getting 80 something, and that's with the DLSS. So it's, I know there's some various competitions for this. There's been, since this is an Nvidia versus AMD, how they do ray tracing and all this. It'll be interesting to see
so these are,
how it all works out in the end.
These are some big games. Doom Eternal, which I still haven't played. I do own it, though. Red Dead Redemption 2, of course. These are all PC games. Cyberpunk, Metro series, Watch Dogs, Death Stranding, Rainbow Six. Some pretty big names, of course. You'd expect, Fortnite and Minecraft, but where I don't really think it matters all that much. Shadow of the Tomb Raider, things like that.
Well, my concern with RTX though is it may not stick as well because as PH is pointing out, AMD GPUs. So on the consoles they ran AMD, so they don't run that RTX. This RTX is limited to the Nvidia, but then you saw with the new Unreal Engine 5. It's not using RTX. They came up with their own system that's not hardware reliant.
Well, I mean, honestly,
I don't know. There's a chance that it may kind of fade off, and they may come up with other systems to do it.
I don't think it's going to fade off, but I'll say this, Brian. I mean, good luck getting your hands on a freaking RTX card. I mean,
I know.
I honestly, I've kind of given up. I was for a period of time was actively trying to find a GPU. I've given up. I mean, between me not really having as much time as I had wanted to be playing games, and frankly not wanting to deal with the bullshit and constantly having to scour websites to try and find something possibly overpriced just to get my hands on an RTX card. I mean, I don't really even care about RTX. So I mean, whatever. I mean, my 1070 doesn't support it, so I don't care.
We're in a weird spot here with this because I've been trying to find the new Xbox, the X Series X. And it's still unavailable. And I check, every day or two, every couple days. It's just crazy. I never thought you'd be in a position where 6 months, at least after release, you're still unable to buy one.
Well, and
it's just weird.
You pull up a calendar and look and see that it is the 1st of June, and you think, oh, start of summer. Well, yes, start of summer, but just remember that the holiday buying season is not far away. It's right around the corner. I mean, we are at this point literally halfway through the year. So give it 3 months.
How is anybody going to be buying a new console for their kids?
That's what I'm saying.
You can't even buy them. You can't buy them regular. I mean, let alone Black Friday. It's just, this is crazy. The shortage and everything. This may be part of what kills the RTX. This may be what makes them say, all right, we're going to go with Lumen on anything that's Unreal. We're going to go do some other series that can run on an AMD card and an Nvidia card because you don't know what kind of card you're going to be able to get. I mean, right now, as you said, good luck getting an Nvidia card.
Yeah. Well, and the problem,
and then you're releasing all these things relying on that technology.
And but let's say this: the problem that you're going to have with Unreal 5 and Lumen and some of these other things, that these are going to still need a pretty beefy GPU to run. PH posted the minimum specs. You're not running this on a, I don't know. I mean, my 1070 is not minimum requirements to even run some of these things. It's a 1080 minimum. And I know most people are not most people, but a lot of people are above or at 1080 or above, but a lot of people aren't. And again, it's just kind of this. It's at this point, it's not even a waiting game. I mean, I'm not even waiting at this point. It's just whenever it happens, it happens. I'm kind of over it, for lack of a better term.
Well, and that's the thing is usually you go out there and you're like, oh, I'm going to get, around Black Friday time, I'm going to get a video card. I'll get this or I'll get that. You can't even make those plans. When you can't go get them right now, no matter, without paying double the price, it shows you we're kind of in a mess. And so I'm more interested in how's this going to affect going forward various technologies that, you can't rely on guaranteeing to get an Nvidia card. So how can you make it to where RTX is reliant on having an Nvidia card? You may have it to where all you can get are AMD cards for a while. So we'll see. All right. Is there anything else you wanted to cover here really quick?
PH saying that according to the Steam database, because they keep track of what's being used, the 1060 is the most popular card, which is way under spec for any of this new Lumen stuff or any of the new stuff coming out of the Unreal Engine 5.
Yep.
So that's very interesting.
Well, hey, let's show this off really quick. So there was something with Crysis. Crysis has always been kind of like the benchmark, right? A lot of people were doing benchmarking off of Crysis because of the resources it used.
Yeah.
And so they're doing a remaster, and last week I was hearing hints at this. People make jokes. Can it run Crysis?
Of course, yes.
And so they're doing a remaster of the trilogy of Crysis. So let's play that video really quick. But this is one that the graphics were always way more advanced than the hardware, and they still can bring a system to its knees with the original Crysis. So let's see how this is.
All right, let's take a look.
Cloak engaged. The Ceph tore us down at the Lingshan Islands. But that was just Hargreave testing the water. He knew what we'd find buried out there. He just wanted to see what the nanosuits would do when we found it. Maximum speed. Hargreave was right. The suit changes all the rules. I had to come back with what I found. You and me, Marine, we don't get to die just yet. We gotta go back. Back where we're needed. Thought I'd gone?
Achieved with CryEngine.
All right. CryEngine.
Yeah.
The goat.
We'll see. That'll be interesting. I played some of the third Crysis. I never played the first two because I wasn't playing consoles at that time, and so this might be a good opportunity to go back and play those. And I think a lot of these, I've been playing the what's the new one that just came out, the remaster? I don't remember the name of it right now, but there's one that I'm doing the remaster of. There's been multiple games that have put out remasters this year. Was it Hitman? Not Hitman. The one that was about the mobsters. That one put out Mafia put out their whole new remaster. I think this is for these companies that have really good series like that. I think remasters is a good way to kind of jump back in with the minimal resources and make some quick money. And you make those old fans really happy because they're going to play the game and they don't have to play through it with really old, with a really old system or something that barely runs, or like Crysis, which was just very inefficient how it's built for it. Well,
it's not. It was inefficient. It was just very ahead of its time.
It was just very resource intensive. Yeah.
It's funny because Linus Tech Tips, every once in a while, they'll do like a series where they go and build like the most ballin' PC from like 2002. And at the time, that PC would have cost like $15,000, and it struggles to run Crysis. You know, a $15,000 computer in 2002, which nobody would have been able to afford, can't run the game that, you know,
I'm curious
was for
how
generation.
this is going to do. Like, what have they done? Have they fixed all that? Like, is it going to be where now it runs normal? You know.
Okay, here's a hot take. I have a hot take, Brian. Rounding out the show. I don't think, and I know. Okay, get ready for this one, ladies and gentlemen. I don't think people actually want to play Crysis. I think
That's
it's just a meme, just like everything else. It's just a meme. I really don't think people care. That's my hot take. I'm not saying people don't like the franchise, because it was a very popular franchise.
But it's more, the memory of it running through the first time is much more than it will be this time.
I can't imagine that. Like, I mean, I have no interest in a Crysis. Right? I've never played Crysis at all.
Yeah. Well, one thing that's nice though. One thing that's nice about these things is for the next generation. You know, for your kids someday, if they keep doing these remasters, you can have it. Hey, here's a game I played when I was your age. Enjoy, right? But they don't have to play through. I'm not going to make them play Rise of the Triad, or which looks ridiculous, or just Wolfenstein 3D. PH says we need H1Z1 remastered. I'm not going to make them play something like that. But when remasters come out, when remasters come out, it's a good opportunity to kind of give them an opportunity to play it and get the same feeling that you did, because at the time when you played it, it looked good. It was cutting edge. When you hand it to them, if you hand them something from your youth, they're going to like, am I supposed to play this? What is this?
Yeah.
So,
are you winning, son?
Yes. Are you winning, son?
All right. Well, we're about an hour into the show, Brian, which means we are at our close for the evening. Is there anything else that you?
I'm still want to know: are you and Sean going to play some Euro Truck or American Truck Simulator multiplayer? You going to make a truck caravan?
No.
No. They just added multiplayer support, and you're not going to do a truck caravan across America?
Brian, I'm going to be honest. I could not. So outside of me playing Mario Party on the GameCube this weekend and getting my ass handed to me, I could not tell you the last video game I played. I don't believe I've played a video game in over a month. Outside of a random Call of Duty game or two here and there, I don't believe I've played anything in it. Because normally my gaming time was later at night. And now that I'm going to bed so early, I'm just not doing it. So no, probably not. I still need to play the new Doom.
All right.
The new Doom that's been out for a while now. No Fun Nick. I know it's just
that's
different.
New nickname. No Fun Nick.
It's not true. It's not. It's different. Like I've just been like, I'm gonna be honest. I've been working, then I've been going to the gym, and it's beautiful out. I've been going to the beach or hitting the pool. It's just video games have just. It's summer. We go through this every summer where it's just.
I know.
It's just no interest. Now when the weather gets terrible again, which fortunately here won't be for at least 6 months, then you'll jump back into it. But I'm not. I'm just not. I'm not. There's nothing right now that's really got my attention, Brian. I mean, Cyberpunk was it. I played a decent amount of it. It didn't really hook me as I had thought it would. And that's it. I have no interest in a next generation console. I mean, I couldn't even tell you what the next game is that I'm.
Next game I'm waiting for is new GTA.
Yeah, but
I mean, that for me will
but you can't say you're waiting for. We know no information about it. We don't have a release. It's like, I mean, I'm waiting for the next Team Fortress 2.
But probably the next game that I'm gonna sit down and be like, I want to play through the whole thing. That's the next one I'm looking and thinking that. I mean, there could be new games to come out, like, okay, that's cool, I'll play that. But right now, that's the game that I'm waiting for, that I want to play through all the way.
Yeah. Well, there you go.
All right. Is there anything else you want to cover before we roll on out?
Yeah, one quick thing. Valve court threw out their appeal over their Steam controller patent suit that they had. So they're nothing will happen with that. So
yes, and for people who don't know, like they'd lost a patent suit about somebody because that new style of that new style of controller they had made. And then it was just thrown out very quickly. It's an interesting article to read if you want to go check it out, but they had no standing and it was pretty much tossed out right away. We'll have a link to that in the show notes if you're interested.
Absolutely. All right. Well, Mr. Brian, pleasure as always. Where can people find you?
All right. Well, first of all, you can find me at Brian Aldridge on Parler or Gab, or if you want to go to my blog, biteoftech.com. And of course, keep your eye on the aldridge.house. We got this. But if you go to webinfectionpodcast.com on the right-hand side, just click join our server on Discord. If you do that, you can submit news topics. There's a lot of different things you can do in there. We have a workout channel. We have a ARC servers and all kinds of places you can chat and hang out with people. And then also we have on there, if you join the Steam group, you get a notification right before the live show starts. And if you happen to be, it's not always very accurate on Tuesdays, but usually we get that up and going and you'll get a notification at some point. We have our video forms of the podcast, Twitch, YouTube, BitChute, and DLive. And then we have the podcast extras, which is the pre and post show that Judd does for us. And then if you want the audio only forms, go to the lower right-hand side there. We've got a bunch of platforms you can listen to on if you have a mobile device, web-based, there's all kinds of ways to do that. And while you're listening, you can follow along with each episode. So if you go to episode 333, you can click on there and click each of the different topics that we're discussing and follow along as you're listening. If you want to support us, go to infectionpodcast.com/support, or there's a support button up top. You can go to amazon.infectionpodcast.com, humble.infectionpodcast.com. We have our, what's that other one?
Subscribe Star.
Subscribe Star, if you want to do that. And then the Prime Gaming subs that people have been doing.
Yep. And those two individuals I want to thank who hit us up with subs here during the show is our friend UGX Vibe, hitting us up with a 40-month resubscription, and our friend Valp hitting us up with the 21-month resubscription. Gentlemen, greatly appreciated. Have no fear, we will put your money to good use. We will not be spending it on hot tub streamer bit donations. So have no fear. Your money is in good hands in the realm of Infection Podcast. All right, Brian. Thank you, my friend. It was a pleasure, and we will be back next Tuesday.
Talk to you soon.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to check out my rantings, I know, crazy. I have viewpoints on things, real insane. You can visit that nickcraig.com. We'll be live 6 to 9 a.m. Eastern each and every weekday morning. As you can see, I am rapidly fading into the abyss. My 4 o'clock wake-up calls tend to get me that way. You can follow me on social media, various social medias at Nick. I'm using Twitter a little bit more because for work, at Nicholas M. Craig. But of course, if you missed any portion of this show, the most important website on the internet is Google, YouTube, that's great. But infectionpodcast.com. Thank you so much for joining us, everybody. Have a great week. We will see you next time.